It's time for dinner.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
From the creative mind of Scott Bertelson, after 4 decades of teaching our impressionable youth,
The dinner bell.
you are invited to enjoy conversational morsels for the mind at Mr. B's dinner party.
Yeah, dinner.
Da-da, 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 da-da. Do you hear the music? Do you see the shark approaching? Yes! No, it's not a shark. It's Mr. Bertelson or Mr. B or whatever you want to call me. If it's appropriate. Anyway. Why did I use the Jaws intro? I don't know. I guess many people think about me as a shark coming upon innocent prey. I hope you don't think about me that way with this podcast. Well, welcome anyway to Mr. B's dinner party. Once again, I hope you have a voracious appetite for my silliness and wisdom, or wisdom and silliness, or are they the same thing? And maybe you don't agree. So, once again, I'm very grateful to all the people who keep saying, thanks for what you shared about that, or about this, or about that. And I've been like, I did? So, anyway. Anyway. We will get started. So let's belly up to the table.
Let's have a seat round the proverbial table
Would you like to say grace?
with a nod to our higher power and Mr. B's spiritual journey.
For my spiritual segment this week, I am, again, this is part 2, of doing my tribute to the program of not eating my poisonous foods anymore by relaying to you some of the wonderful, I guess they call them memes. Is that right? I don't know. To me from a friend who's also an overeater. Every day she sends me something that has a usually stupendous aspect to it that I can relate to, and I can use that day in my daily living. So I'm going to share with you the Serenity Prayer. Now, the traditional Serenity Prayer, which is something I try to say every day, maybe more than once a day. If I'm bewildered, I say it. If I'm in chaos, I say it. If I'm worried, I say it. Do you see a pattern here? So I find it really, truly helps, along with many other kinds of prayers too. And you don't have to have a certain type of rigid written prayer if you don't want. You can just talk to God, I believe, anytime, anywhere, and He's going to hear you, or she, whichever pronoun you choose to use. So anyway, the original Serenity Prayer goes, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it's amazing how that applies to my life 24/7. My wonderful friend, who is also overeater and in recovery as I am, sent me this version. God grant me, not my spouse, my kids, or my friends, right, the serenity remaining unruffled in spite of it all, to accept, not just endure, suffer, or both, the things as well as people in my life. I cannot change, even though I have tried and tried. Oh, yes. I could give you a litany of names of people I have tried to change, to no avail. Thank goodness. The courage, which can only come from you, Lord, to change the things I can, particularly about myself. And the wisdom, this is your area, Lord, to know, not just guess or hope, the difference between your will and mine. I think that's beautiful. Again, the difference between your will, not mine. When my will wants to run the show, it is disastrous, and it is appalling, and it goes nowhere but down the toilet. So that's why I have to have a higher power. Here's another one, all related to overeating or having addictions of any kind. And this is for letting go of what no longer serves you. Finding joy in small moments. Focusing on what you can give over to your higher power. Challenging yourself to try new things. Trusting that everything happens at the right time. I love that. Trusting that everything happens at the right time. That to me is brilliant because I believe that. I believe that everything in God's time. Valuing your time by dedicating it to what truly matters. Surrounding yourself with positive energy. Doing the things that match what you believe in. And finally, showing yourself the love you deserve. Don't leave yourself out of the equation, my happy friends. Show yourself the love you deserve. Sometimes if you're making amends to people, you better put yourself at the top of the list. Because as an overeater and a person who has had a major problem with loving myself, and I'm not blaming anybody for that. I could come on the air and blame this person and this person and this person and this person for, look what you did to me. Look at how you made my life so horrible. And now I can't survive. That is ridiculous. Because the past is the past. Today is today. And one thing you've got to do with this program is you've got to love the people who hurt you. Yep, I said it. You have to love the people who have offended you or hurt you. And you have to pray for them. And you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. For you. Because if you're going to squander that resentment against that person, it will fester and grow and grow and grow, and you will lose your program. So, just a little aside. Here's another statement my friend sent me, and I usually read these at like 6 o'clock in the morning when I'm walking, which I really enjoy, and then I relish them and think about them throughout the day. Always find time for the things that make you feel happy to be alive. Happy to be alive. Not just enduring. Not just going through the motions. Happy. Happy. Nobody can make you happy. Used to have students who would say, that person makes me very, very sad. And I always said, as a dime store psychologist, whether I had the right or not, I'd say, nobody can make you sad or angry or resentful or happy, whatever. That's the choice you make. Most people don't like to hear that. And I get that. Because it'd be much easier to just slip into, you did that to me. You did that to me. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Here's the next one. According to society, luxury, that is a lots of something, would be, what do you guess out there in podcast land? This person says cars, expensive clothes, and a lavish lifestyle. I guess having a beautiful home and servants and top quality entertainment. But really, when you think about it, the real luxuries of life would include slow mornings. I love slow mornings. I don't need one every day, but sometimes they are really welcomed. Freedom to choose. Think about how lucky we are to have that in this country. Freedom to choose. I can choose whatever political viewpoint I want to take, where to live, what to eat, whom to hang out with, whatever it would be. A good night's sleep, still the greatest gift that a higher power has given us, is within that realm of time, our human body has healed itself, prepared itself for the next day. It's amazing. Peace of mind. Instead of having that monkey in your brain, as many overeaters have called it, jumping around in the brain, instead you've got a calm sea. No tidal wave, just calm. I also like calm and boring days. Oh, yes. I find many great positive attributes to the word boring. A boring day where I don't have to do so many emails or check so many appointments or have to feel compelled to have this done by a certain time or have this done by a certain time or meet this person by a certain time. I know that's all part of life. Yes, I get it. I get it. I get it. But some days I want that all turned off because you'll still be there the next day. Okay. People you love. I have to be surrounded by people I love. And I love people. I really, truly do. Or I wouldn't be doing this, or I wouldn't have taught for all those years, and I wouldn't be substituting now. And then, of course, to coincide with that would be people who love you back. You can tell when somebody loves you, and what a great feeling. I remember when my mother died. She was my biggest fan. And I thought to myself, I've lost the greatest love of my life, my mother. And even though she's been gone 7, 8 years, she's still with me. I can still hear her. I can still see her. And I know she still loves me. But when the whole world was falling down, supposedly, according to me, around me, I could always count on her love for me. And I still do. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate it, Mom. All right, I got a couple more because I know that you want to hear these. Here's one. Remove the, quote, I want you to like me, unquote, sticker. How many years did I wear that sticker? From your forehead and place it on the mirror where it belongs. Wow. Do I hear an amen out there? Amen. Place it on the mirror. I want you to like you. Don't try to find it through other people. Look at yourself in the mirror. As Michael Jackson said, that man in the mirror. Really important. And the last one I'm going to share today, and I'll come back to this in a few weeks, is called The Inner Child Wounds. Now, as I've said before, growing up as a child, I had some issues with my father. There was some abuse. And to this day, I have forgiven my father for that. And just recently visiting with my cousin, her father and my father were brothers. And, we've talked about the so-called dysfunction of our childhoods. Even though we're not blaming, we just recognize and see it, and we decided not to live that way anymore. So we've made it proactive. But a wound that I used to feel as a child was feeling left out. Also, being left somewhere. Somebody threatening to leave me. And being surrounded by emotionally upset people. when the wound is not healed, when I was abandoned, and I was abandoned in some ways, not physically, I wasn't left along the road or put in the foster care system or anything like that, but I think I was abandoned emotionally many times. The guilt wound. I was growing up and I lived in a guilt-soaked home. Anytime there was guilt to be bestowed on somebody or something, it seemed to always come into my direction. And again, past it. Again, I'm not angry about it anymore. I'm not resentful, any of that. I'm just stating what it was. But the guilt wound is where you feel sorry or bad all the time. You don't like to ask for help because you'll probably be viewed as stupid or worthless. You're afraid to set boundaries. And you normally attract people who make them feel guilty. You want them to feel guilt because you're carrying around a cesspool of guilt. Why not just spread the wealth, huh? Oh my. And make those around you feel guilty. Oh, and did I do that in my life prior to finding my abstinence? Oh, yes, I did. Oh, yes, I did. And I now give that over to my higher power, and I've made amends to those people. The trust wound. You're very afraid to be hurt. I have dealt with this one in many situations of my life. I don't trust people very easily. Not that I'm not looking for the good in people, but I just find it very difficult sometimes to trust someone. I feel insecure. I don't feel safe. And of course, this normally attracts people who don't feel safe. So, two birds of a feather flock together, right? And the last one is the neglect wound. This is where you really struggle to let things go. Like somebody looked at you a wrong way or said something to you in such a manner that you don't quite understand, or they send you a text and you misinterpret the text or whatever. And you ponder it and you ponder it and you ponder it, and it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. That's obsession. That's compulsion. And that's what ruins or can ruin your abstinence from your addictive substances. Usually you have low self-worth. You get angry easily. You have a struggle to say no to things. Because I need to say yes to everything because I want everybody to like me at all times. It doesn't matter how I feel because I'm not worth it. I am worthless. I think you need to re-examine that. It normally attracts people who don't appreciate them or make them feel seen. So, if you're a wounded person, you are probably going to be constantly seeking out other people around you who feel that way. And then let's have a party of feeling sorry for ourselves and feeling worthless and revel in our low self-esteem. Now, I'm being facetious here, folks. But instead, that's why many times then we turn to a substance abuse, whether it's alcohol or sex or gambling or food or narcotics or whatever it is. We turn to it to try to have some momentary pleasure, happiness, to run away from what's really the issue is. And the real solution is your higher power. The real solution is to give up control. The real solution is admitting you can't do it by yourself. And that has made you, at that moment, one of the strongest people ever. Let your higher power guide your day and your thinking. I will always have an addictive mind, disease of the mind. I can't get rid of it. But I can have it calm, and I can have it peaceful. And that's thanks to my higher power.
For the next course, come one, come all. Nothing spoiled here. From comfort classics to what's hot now. Film reviews from Mr. B's Rewatchables.
For my film rewatchable, I'm going back to the 70s. I notice now that America is becoming nostalgic, and we're having 70s karaoke parties. Karaoke, however you pronounce it. Mrs. Roper romp parties. No more detail about that do I want to talk about. Let's see. Also, some of the music is coming back. Anyway, everything old is new again, as they say. I want to talk about a film that's a small film, but is huge in other regards. And the film is called A Woman Under the Influence. A Woman Under the Influence. And it was written and directed by John Cassavetes. And I guess I was thinking about it this week because Gina Rowlands, who plays the lead in this film, just recently died. One of my favorite screen actresses. She was also in the original film Gloria. She was in the Skeleton Key. She was the mother in Hope Floats. She was in numerous plays on Broadway. She did lots of television. She was married to John Cassavetes. And I think she was a brilliant actress. Anyway, sometime, as I said, either go, hopefully it's on Tubi, or go to a streaming service or a cable station, or you could buy it, is finding the film A Woman Under the Influence. It's a 1974 American drama written, as I said, and directed by John Cassavetes. It follows the story of a woman, Gina Rowlands, whose unusual behavior, unusual is surely the word, leads to conflict with her blue-collar husband, Peter Falk, who also was Columbo.
Hey. Right.
I was trying to be nice.
Wacko.
It received 2 Academy Award nominations for Best Actress and Best Director. Let me give you a little bit of the plot. Mabel is a Los Angeles housewife and mother, and they have 3 children. And the film starts that she has sent her 3 kids to stay with her mother for the night. Now, Mabel is a heavy drinker and has been exhibiting some strange behavior. So, anyway, she was supposed to have a date night with her husband, Nick, as portrayed by Peter Falk. But they have to cancel that date over the phone. So she's devastated. She meets a man in a bar. He offers her some drinks. He takes her home, passed out. He forces her to dance with him and appears to sexually assault her at the bottom of the stairs while she hits him with her handbag. This is all happening in her home. So she wakes up the next morning in bed and the man is still there. She's confused and argues with him, calling him by her husband's name and warning him that she's not in the mood for games. Later that day, Nick, her husband, brings home 11-member crew to her house without telling her. She makes everybody spaghetti and they all sit at the table. She seems at first polite and wants to welcome all of his guests. But then she starts snapping and doing vulgar, strange sayings and movement at the table, and they all feel like they have to leave because they don't know what's going on with her. Now, her behavior becomes increasingly odd. So her husband is very much concerned. She hosts a birthday party, but one of the child's parents becomes very disturbed by her behavior and is reluctant to leave her children alone with her, asking her if she's been drinking. When Nick comes home, he finds all the children are running wild, half naked, and gets in a fight with this guy who then leaves with his children. Then they bring in a doctor to evaluate her mental health. She becomes very angry, suspicious.
Get back!
I will never hurt you.
Back!
I love you. I'll lay down on a railroad track for you. If I made a mistake, which I did, I'm sorry. But so what? What's the difference? I love you. Now relax. Come back to me.
Nick.
Relax and come back to me.
Nick.
Get out of here.
Her mother, Margaret, Peter Falk's mother, accuses Mabel of being a bad mother, drinking all the time, leaving her children hungry and naked. She offers nothing to help her son, and they all feel like she needs to be institutionalized.
When you see me, do you feel, oh, I know her, that's Mom? Or do you ever think of me as dopey or mean or
No, you're smart, you're pretty, you're nervous too.
So anyway, Nick returns to work, and then she does become institutionalized. And then 6 months later, Nick plans a large surprise welcome home party for Mabel. However, his mother points out that this may be overwhelming for her, and Nick asks all of the non-family guests to leave. When Mabel does come home, she's quiet, very much in contrast to the former outgoing and eccentric personality. Nick tries to make her feel comfortable, telling her that he is with her and it doesn't matter what other people think. Unfortunately, the evening degenerates into another emotional, psychologically taxing event. She tells her husband she went through electric shock therapy, and she asks everybody to leave because she and Nick want to go to bed. Of course, this makes everybody feel awkward. After they all leave, she has a breakdown and she cuts herself. She's standing on the sofa bleeding and refuses to come down. Her husband slaps her, causes her to fall in front of her children. She appears to recover somewhat and puts the kids to bed while they express their love for her. And then they prepare their beds as the credits roll. Now, this is a horrifying film to watch a woman's descent into mental illness. It's never really particularly stated what it is that she's suffering from, schizophrenia or some other mental disorder. But she is no doubt very, very mentally challenged. Something's going on. Something caused this to happen because her behaviors are outrageous. Gina Rowlands is a tour de farce in this film. Because as you're watching this movie, and again, don't watch it for a feel-good film. It's not. But do watch it for the brilliance of her acting. Because her contorted facial expressions, her contorted movements, her looks as though she's saying, please help me, I can't help myself. I know that I am slipping into insanity. Somebody please help me.
Hey, listen, you birds, I'm waiting for my kids at school. Do you mind giving me the time? Do ya? What's the matter with you?
You have such, for me, empathy for this character. Of course, there were moments I was very angry with her by what she was doing with her children and her husband and her behaviors. But again, that's probably because of her descent into madness. And what happens to her after this film, I don't know. This is just a little glimpse, a little slab of life, so to speak, that we get of this character. But I don't think it's very positive as to whether or not this marriage is going to work, whether she's going to be able to stay at home because of her illness. And you would not expect in the 70s to see something like this. It was way, as the cliche goes, ahead of its time. And Gena Rowland's performance is stellar. Again, I do not know what the characteristics that would be manifested to slip into dementia or mental illness or whatever it would be, insanity, call it what you want. But she is amazing in this film. Difficult to watch. Very difficult to watch. Because for me, I wanted to reach out and help her. I wanted to call somebody. I wanted her husband to realize, get this woman some help. Do something. Don't just shove this under the rug. This is not necessarily any fault of hers. So, A Woman Under the Influence. Gena Rowlands. To me, her greatest, by far, film performance. So if you would like a study in a person's journey into insanity, this would be the film to watch. Brilliantly written, brilliantly directed, and brilliantly acted. A Woman Under the Influence.
And now, School Days with Mr. B.
Speaking about education as I have, my feelings about it, my experiences with it, for this segment today, I'm going to share with you what I think would be some ways for teachers to get past the honeymoon period in the classroom. Now, for those of you who are not teachers, you might say, what are you talking about, the honeymoon period? At this point when I'm taping this, students have been in school 2 to 3 weeks. By the time it's on, probably it will be, of course, many more weeks than that. But the honeymoon period is normally what I always call the first 2 to 3, roughly, weeks of school, usually first 2 weeks of school, where students are very much like Play-Doh. They can be, so to speak, molded very easily. They're very happy, even though they won't admit it, to be back in a very scheduled environment. And they're very willing to do what you ask them. They're wanting that knowledge to be, so to speak, crammed into their brains. Now that changes throughout the years. I'm not saying that, but sometimes it does. So this is the period where it's like, this isn't too bad. This is going well. Everybody seems to be listening. I don't have to tell anybody to sit down 40 times. They're getting their work in on time. Wow, this is going to be the way the school year goes. Maybe not. Again, maybe so, but I'm guessing maybe not. So what do you do when the honeymoon wears off? Anyway, you don't want to throw up your hands and say, well, I can't do this, because you can. Any teacher can. And of course, you can have a honeymoon period with a job too. That's perfectly understandable too. But the first thing I would say is always be consistent with your rules as a teacher, because students are miracle workers and so insightful for finding ways to get around rules and structures, as we are as adults too. Come on, let's face it. Some are very subtle, but others are right in your face. Well, why did you let this person do it and I couldn't? Hey, that's a good question. Are you being consistent? You need to make clear that the rules are the same as the day the year started. And that takes guts and determination and great thought on your part as an educator to keep that consistent. if you allow a class to have a lot of unstructured talk, and then you expect within the first 4 to 5 weeks of the class that's going to change, you might be fooling yourself because they've learned a pattern. They've learned your structure. Yes, the start of the school year is very tiring. There's no question. But again, the more consistent you can be with structure and routine and rules will really help in the next roughly 35 weeks. And they will eventually decide that they're going to stop testing you because you're not going to change. Another way that I think you can get help is if you don't know what to do and you're struggling with a person or in your classroom, a behavior, a situation, and it seems like you're losing control, so to speak, of the class, turn to somebody. Turn to an administrator. Turn to a counselor. Turn to a fellow teacher. Talk to somebody and get some help. Teachers are caring professionals, and they want you to be successful. The next step is to keep the rules and structures predictable. That is, don't make them outlandish. Students want to feel safe in school, and most adults want to create that feeling of safety for them. So make sure you follow through on behavior consequences. This will happen if you do this. And then don't back down from that for anybody. Be consistent. If you say you're going to call home, you tell that to the student, make sure you do it. Otherwise, your forthcoming rules saying you're going to do this and this and this, they won't believe you. And also your students will feel safer when they know what to expect. Students want to know that you care about them. Let them know you care about them by being consistent. And the last one I want to share about how to get past the honeymoon period and have the whole year be a honeymoon is to give yourself a break. There might be days that you don't follow through. Okay, things are going to go wrong. Mistakes will happen. And occasionally you're going to slip up on a rule. That's who we are. No such thing as a perfect teacher. And you've got to give yourself a break. Teaching is a career that means learning about and dealing with new people all the time. And teaching would be boring if we just had clones of ourselves sitting in the room. Nobody wants that. Nobody. So, take time to reflect. Be consistent. Ask for help. Follow through with your discipline, your behavior. If they have a behavior, so to speak. I don't even care for that word. But anyway, I'll use it for the sake of time. What are you going to do to follow through with that? And then give yourself a break. And make your classroom the enjoyable place that it can be. Not perfect. No. Doesn't exist. Never will. But make it enjoyable for the kids. Make it enjoyable for you. Make it a place where you're not watching the clock. Make it a place where you walk in and you walk out every day saying, I think I made a difference today. No matter how miserable that is, you made a difference. That's why teaching is the most admirable profession.
Don't you forget this.
And now for a special treat. Poetry with Mr. B.
I'd like to do a little bit more poetry for you. A few podcasts back, I did a couple poems by Robert Frost, one of my favorite poets, one of the greatest American poets of our time. That's my opinion, and I stand by that. I'm going to share 2 more poems of his, and then I will, in the future, be choosing other contemporary or American or both, or world-renowned poets, just to expose you more to poetry, I'll tell you what I think it means. You don't have to agree. You can find anything you want in a poem anytime you want. You can read a poem one day and it says something, and the next day it says something else. Here's one that I think is exemplified in our world today. It's called Fire and Ice. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. Fire and ice. What is fire? Could it be hate? Could it be disgust? Could it be loathing? What's ice? Could it be not caring, being apathetic, uninvolved? Both are destructive. We see it in our world today. It's been in our world forever. Whether you look at the political realm, or if you look at people's home life, or where you work, it's there. There's fire and there's ice. Do you have to participate in either one of those? You know the answer. No. So again, some say the world will end in fire, and some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. Very sarcastic, I think, in his tone. That's my take. Very sarcastic. I don't think he's endorsing either one. And I would hope that you wouldn't either. Fire and Ice. For my second Robert Frost poem, and I hope this propels you to read more of his poetry. Again, as I had mentioned, I think he does a superb job of integrating nature and life-living values together so well. This is called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and the frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness belts a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. Now, if you're in a classroom, the first thing a teacher would probably say is, "What's that say to you? What do you think this means?" Well, that's what I'm asking you. I can't hear you out there. Do you have your electronic hand up? Anyway, and maybe you've heard the poem, maybe you haven't. I think for me, it's a story of a man possibly contemplating, or woman, I think a man though, suicide. And for whatever reason, home life, work, whatever, combination thereof. And he's going to go out into the woods and find some way of ending his life. And somehow, for some reason, he changes his mind and decides that he has lots of miles to go before he sleeps. Sleep to me is death in this poem. And he's got a lot of living to do. He may have children. He may have a mortgage. He may have a job, whatever it would be. But he has so many things he finally realizes that he lives for. And so he's going to turn around and exit those dark woods, and he will not find his lifeless body in the morning. Instead, he will be back at home, hopefully a different person. Something must have jarred with him to make him make this change in his thought. You can read between the lines as much as you want. Now, are we actually talking about actual woods and a lake and a horse-drawn carriage? Who knows? Not necessarily. It could all be very metaphoric. It can all be very figurative. It can all be very symbolic. But I love the last stanza. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And he feels warranted to repeat it. And miles to go before I sleep. So thank you, Robert Frost, for that poem of giving inspiration to me of realizing that there are times in life that it seems to really may not be worth pursuing to continue enduring life, but there is always something that can and will improve our lives. And always remember, tomorrow is another day. So, as you all travel your many miles, I hope that it's a long, long time before you all need to sleep. And I guess, without further ado, that's it for this week. Oh, yes. Heard a little poetry. Heard a little bit about a movie. Learned a little bit more about the Spirit's journey. And let's keep enjoying that honeymoon period in the classroom. So anyway, if you need some Alka-Seltzer on the way out, I have some ready, or Tums, because I know that you just really left nothing on your plate. I wish you'd stay behind and do the dishes or help me with that. You all want to belly up to the table, but you don't want to do the cleanup. All right, you're off the hook this time. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being here at Mr. B's dinner party, and I hope our paths cross soon. And I wish you the very best in your endeavor of staying on the road of happiness. Bye-bye.
Mr. B's Dinner Party is hosted by Scott Bertelson, edited and produced by Troy Thompson, recorded and distributed at Sunnyside Farm Studios. Music is provided by Soundstripe and platformed by Buzzsprout. Like our page on Facebook, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share with your friends. Listen and enjoy every other Wednesday, conversational morsels for the mind on Mr. B's Dinner Party.